This is Get Real with Bob and Stacy, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacy Alcorn.
Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Get Real here with Bob and Stacy. We've got a guest joining us by phone today, very special guest, and it's appropriate for the season, seeing as we're only a couple months away from taxes being due. That's everybody's favorite time of year, right, Stacy?
Oh, my favorite.
So joining by phone today is Andrew Poulos. Andrew, welcome to the show. Andrew is a nationally recognized tax expert. What do you got going on this time of year, Andrew?
Well, thanks for having me on. And this time of the year is all about taxes. Monday through Sunday, we're just trying to make it all work out for folks out there who are trying to get their tax returns filed without a lot of stress and chaos.
Nice. And by the way, Andrew is much more than an accountant. He's also an entrepreneur, real estate investor, an author, national speaker, nationally syndicated tax software expert. In fact, he produced the QuickBooks Ultimate Lesson Guide DVD series. So,
which Stacy's going to be buying today, probably.
Well, I do a lot of work on QuickBooks, and I could probably get better at it. So I'll definitely have to check out the DVD series.
You can always learn something new.
So what are some of the challenges that you are seeing this tax season?
Obviously, we have all kinds of challenges, everything from the budget cuts that Congress has cut the IRS budget. So we're having challenges being able to get through to the IRS, whether it's from the tax preparer, tax professional side, or the average person who may need to reach the IRS. There's a lot of confusion right now with the new with the Affordable Care Act regulations, the reporting requirements that have officially kicked in for 2015 for this filing season. So there's a couple of big issues that I'm starting to see, and it's only mid-February right now.
So how can people best prepare so that they can have a stress-free tax season? Is it possible?
Well, if that's even there's such a thing as stress-free. But look, it's people who procrastinate obviously have major issues and a lot of stress come April, late March, and beginning of April. So the key always is that I recommend get started early, whether you actually go to see your tax professional now or in late March. If you actually get started early, compiling your information, making sure you have everything in order and that you're not missing information. Because the worst thing is to actually go get your taxes done and you get there and you figure out that you're missing 3 or 4 or 5 documents, and then that's just going to prolong the process. So that's one of the things is getting started early, making sure people, I always stress to folks, whether they come to me or someone else, that they do due diligence, a little bit of research, make sure they're using someone that's reputable, that's around to help them after tax season. So if you get a notice from the IRS, if you get a letter or something, that you have someone there that you can contact that can assist you after the fact. It's not just for preparing a return. It's what happens after April 15th.
Right. Don't procrastinate. That's the big thing. Telling a procrastinator not to procrastinate.
I was just going to say, are you jotting some notes down right now?
Yes.
It's easier said than done, isn't it?
I wrote down don't procrastinate.
Don't procrastinate.
So are there any new tax legislations that you feel are important for people to know about?
Oh, gosh. In my world, it's never a dull moment. Yes, we have, obviously, the Affordable Care Act regulations. So this year, folks have to actually provide the Form 1095 A, B, or C, which is going to provide proof of verification, basically, for health insurance for last year. Then we also have a big one that kind of has gone under the radar in December. And what Congress did, they passed new regulations as part of a Transportation Act bill, where folks who owe more than $50,000 in taxes and have not taken action to rectify their problems, they can actually be at risk now to losing their passports, whether it's a new passport or a renewal of a passport. So that's just a major problem that we're going to be facing, that people need to be aware of, that if they have taxes and they don't get them resolved, basically, that the IRS will take their passport now.
Wow, that's interesting. That is new.
Yes, it's gone. And there was challenges with it when they were trying to initially pass it a couple of years ago. There was a lot of pushback. This time around, it flew under the radar. They threw it in the transportation bill. No one even noticed it, and I caught it the day after it passed, pretty much. And yeah, it's read about it. It's just not a good situation. So folks who owe the taxes over $50,000 actually, which is very easy to get into a tax problem these days, need to be aware and they need to take action.
Wow.
Interesting. It's so interesting. Being in the real estate field, I always participate in the Realtor Day on Beacon Hill, etc. And every year they're trying to pass through, trying to get rid of the mortgage interest tax deduction, which is a big thing. That's a big reason why people buy property instead of rent. But like every year, it's for the last 10 years that I've participated, we go to Beacon Hill to get the legislatures, etc., just to understand how important it is and how it could basically bring our industry to a halt if they got rid of that.
It is. That's come up. That actually came up in the first year when President Obama got elected. And so there's been a push towards getting rid of the mortgage interest deduction. Obviously, the key is from the government's perspective that they would generate more tax revenues. The problem is that we're not like Europe. We're just a better country. We run in a different system. So just because some other country doesn't have a mortgage interest deduction doesn't mean that it will work well for us. And like you said, the big problem is that people now, if that happens, there won't be an incentive to be a homeowner. A lot of people will just become renters, and we could see obviously challenges and possible, another real estate crisis in a sense, basically.
Right, and that
with valuations.
And you can't argue that that's a tax on the rich. I mean, that's a massive tax increase on the middle class.
That's exactly right. There is no getting around, the saying that that's a tax on the rich, like you said, because basically who are the majority of homeowners? It's the middle class that drive the real estate economy pretty much, purchase homes, live in homes, basically. Sure, the rich there might be some real estate investments, higher end investments with commercial properties or multiple homes, but the reality is the average person, the average husband-wife team are the ones that are buying a house to live in, and if you don't have that incentive for the tax deduction, if people basically aren't going to be homeowners, and there's not going to be a good market in a sense, I guess was what I'm trying to say. Then that's going to have a big impact on valuations, on home valuations.
Yeah, and it's all the ancillary businesses that benefit when somebody buys a house. I mean, can you imagine what would happen to Home Depot and Lowe's if home ownership dropped off a cliff?
Interesting.
I mean, look at that, and let's not even look at all the service-based businesses, real estate attorneys, appraisers. I mean, there's so many businesses, so many other industries that tie in with real estate. It would be huge, just above and beyond the Home Depot and the Lowe's and the big corporations basically that deal in the real estate business. So it's I don't know if it's going to happen, but there has certainly been a lot of push towards that for probably, I'd say, the last 10 years or so.
And most of that has been under President Obama. Is that correct?
Yeah, there were some rumors before President Obama, but certainly in his first year, that's when it came out, and President Obama came out and made it public that was not his idea. Of course, no one wanted that kind of publicity, and no president would want that basically in their first year for sure. But there's kind of been pushed towards that. We'll see what happens, but I'm just very fearful that one day it will pass, and we won't have a mortgage interest deduction anymore.
And I don't know what happened with the Mortgage Forgiveness Debt Relief Act or something like that, because one thing that because we still see a lot of short sales, that they were not going to renew the Mortgage Debt Relief Act.
And they did not. Yeah, they had extended that legislation several years, and now they basically let that go. So essentially, what that was kind of like a little a little present for folks during the recession, and now that they feel that the economy is doing better, they've taken that away. The reality is you still have short sales, you still have people that get foreclosed, and a lot of people basically happens to be their primary residence, not an investment. And that's just a shame. Pretty much it's someone who's already having challenges and is being displaced from their home now may have a huge tax implication from losing their primary residence.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. So if they forgive $50,000, basically that could be $50,000 in taxable income.
Not necessarily. No, it doesn't equate to that. That becomes $50,000 of taxable income, but the bottom line doesn't mean that it's obviously $50,000 of tax debt. But yeah, if they forgive $50,000 potentially, then that may be another $50,000 in addition to all your other income. Which the scary thing is that could actually, let's just say that you're in a breaking point between being in the tax bracket you're at versus a higher tax bracket. Normally, you would be in the lower tax bracket. You add in the 1099 cancellation of debt income, that would push you to a higher tax bracket, which means all your withholdings from your your W-2 effectively aren't sufficient at that point anyway. So it just becomes a big problem.
Wow, interesting. So what do you foresee happening in the future, being that taxes keep increasing and getting more complex?
It just depends. A lot of it's going to depend on who gets elected this coming election. Normally, I would say that it's just going to continue getting worse, but I just don't know. I have hope that maybe the system will change a little bit, that we won't keep on getting into this convoluted tax system where the tax code just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But typically, that's all we see in my industry is we just have to prepare and figure out the new tax laws that pass for every January. But I'm hopeful that something will get better pretty much depending on if who gets elected and what happens pretty much and what their tax policies might be.
Gotcha. Okay. So anybody listening in, you can learn more about Andrew Poulos at savvytaxguy.com. But let's flip for a moment to your foundation. You have a foundation that you founded, the Poulos Children's Cancer Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Indeed. I started cancer runs in my family. My father passed away from cancer when I was 11. I've been operated on, as has one of my younger brothers. And so I just felt that at this point in my career that it would be a great cause to start up a foundation to help families who have a child suffering with cancer and really have a financial need. A lot of it was spurred from obviously the personal connection that we have with cancer in my family, but a lot of it also boils down to that when families have huge medical bills, they just get into financial bind, and there's got to be some organization out there that I felt that can contribute in a system, whether it's travel accommodations to get their child to a children's hospital, or being able to cover the deductible on their health insurance plan to be able to get treatment for their child, with health insurance being so unaffordable these days. And so we've started Poulos Children's Cancer Foundation, where folks can find out more on the website at helpachildwithcancer.org. And really what we're doing is raising money. All the proceeds we raise is going back towards helping families who have financial needs and when their child's trying to get cancer treatment.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
It is.
All right. So
yeah, trying to do a good thing out there.
Yes. And it sounds like you're a runner, too?
Trying.
Did you say you were running originally to raise money for cancer research?
No, we're basically we're taking a different approach. We're actually going to be partnering with entertainers and professional athletes and networking with them to where they donate autographed memorabilia, and then we will raffle them off for like a one-night dream evening with the winner gets to have dinner and just a kind of a dream date, basically, with that athlete or entertainer. So we're taking a different approach, trying to use celebrities, in a sense, to be able to raise a lot of money.
Yes.
Oh, for some reason, you and I haven't been asked yet to participate in that, Stacy.
Don't worry, that's coming after the show.
All right, so what we've learned today is don't procrastinate. That's all I remember.
Yeah. So are you actually going to do your taxes early this year?
I
might
probably file an extension like I do every year.
Stacy's going to call me up on April 15th asking me what she should do, and the only word that's going to come out of my mouth will be extension.
Extension. Yeah, Stacy knows that word by heart.
Yeah.
We have a few minutes left, and I'm curious. With you being an accountant, we kind of talked about this before we got started today. Do you have any opinions on Trump's tax plan?
Yeah, so Bob, Trump's proposed tax policies, could actually be very good for the country, assuming, of course, he gets elected and everything goes as planned for him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got some potentially good policies that will create job growth and lower tax brackets for everyone across the board, from the poor to the middle class to the wealthy, of course. But what folks have to realize is it doesn't matter whether it's Trump's policy or anyone else's tax policies. you can only do so much to generate revenue growth if you don't curb your spending and if you don't basically increase job growth and stimulate new economic growth, basically. So that's going to be the interesting part that I'm waiting to see, that if he doesn't get elected, what will really happen, what will come to fruition. Are we going to have economic growth? Are we going to see new jobs, real jobs, not these minimum wage jobs that have been created the last 8 years, to go along with any tax cuts? So, it could possibly work, just kind of depends. There's a lot of variables involved.
Now, that sounds good, and I personally agree with you. I think Donald Trump does have a good plan, especially since he's a business person and actually knows what the real-world impacts are of tax policies. Here's another question for you, just a quick follow-up. What do you think about Bernie Sanders? He kind of has the opposite plan, which is instead of stimulating growth through tax cuts, he plans to increase taxes.
That is always a plan for disaster. There's only so much you can tax people. If we take, it's a proven fact that if we take and tax 100% of all the wealthy and probably a portion of the upper middle class, you still don't generate enough tax revenue. So what Bernie Sanders wants to do is taxing people to death. Look, he wants to tax us while we're here and working, making our money. He wants to tax us on the way out pretty much after we die, too, of upwards of like 65% estate tax. It's absolutely ridiculous. That plan would never work.
Right, and one of the things that I was shocked at listening to his ad campaigns, I don't know if you're hearing him down south the way we are, but he's talking about how everybody can go to school for free, go to college for free, and he'll get the money by taxing the rich.
Like you said, for free, right? Where's all this free stuff? People have to realize that there is no such thing as a handout or anything for free. When one hand gives you something for free, the other hand has to take something back. And it's, I always tell people it's simple economics, right? If our credit card company gives us a $50,000 credit line to use, sure, we have $50,000 that we can get charged up in debt. But once we get to that $50,000 or above the $50,000, how are we going to pay that off if we are only generating $30,000 or $40,000 of annual income and we can't support all our debt along with all our other bills? That's precisely the problem that people don't realize. Everyone just likes to hear and jump on Bernie Sanders' bandwagon of, oh yeah, free school, free health care, free this, free that. But the reality is there is nothing for free. We're all paying for it. I don't care if you're poor, middle class, or wealthy. We're all paying for it in some shape or form.
Well said. Well said. Thanks for joining us on the show, Andrew. That was great. Great to have you on. We got more Get Real with Bob and Stacy coming up at you. Stay tuned. We got a break for commercials.